Tony Clark, who is out of a job because he couldn't contain the horny. Yes, reports surfaced that he was resigning from his position right before the MLB season was to begin. Reports are that he was actually about to go speak to some of the players as spring training has commenced. And the reason for that is because he was having sex with his sister-in-law. Now, the question remains, and I don't know if we'll ever get the answer, is was Tony having sex with his brother's wife or was he having sex with his wife's sister? Both are probably bad. It's funny. People are like back and forth on which one is worse. I don't know which one is worse. I don't know which one is better. But I know that he just lost a whole lot of money. Hopefully he got a prenup. Doubted that he actually did. But here's the thing, right? There's so many people right now, right, cheating on their spouse, right? Because cheating on their spouse isn't something new. It's not something that's going to stop. However, the idea that you're going to not only cheat on your wife, right? You're going to cheat on your wife and you are going to then break up your family, but then you are going to cost yourself so much money because you're going to get fired and you're going to get divorced. Like in the Sharon Moore situation in Minnesota, for the Michigan Wolverines, like he got fired, granted, but I don't know if his wife's going to leave him, right? Like every picture, every video I've seen that they are still together. So maybe they'll be able to work that out. So some of his money will be saved, but you're not getting any of that money back. And Tony Clark reportedly was making anywhere between $8 to $10 million. And I'm telling you, brothers, there's no woman out there that's worth $8 to $10 million of sex. It just isn't. And now he's out there on the street. He broke up his family and he's about to get sued he's about to lose half his money because he cheated on his girl. And the amount of people who just throw away their marriages, throw away their family, throw away their careers for, I don't know, how long is Tony lasting now? 15 minutes tops. All right. I'm being real generous. 15 minutes for you to get all that action in and then you end up broke is not a good math decision, my brothers. And now he has to resign from his position. And funny enough, it's actually probably got nothing to do with his actual job, right? Tony Clark necessarily wasn't the best for the Players Association. You can argue he was actually pretty detrimental to them at different times. And the union has already came out and said that they will find a successor in the next couple of days. And I don't think this is going to be that big of a deal. Like there's a lot of lawyers involved in this, but it speaks to the level of just crisis that I think we as humans have, where there is just a level of horniness that people cannot control. And it is something that has just downfall, I would say mostly men, but there's two people involved in this. And I don't know whether or not what her situation was. Like, again, this could have just been his wife's sister, or this could have been his brother's wife. Again, I don't know which one is which, but she's now involved in some scandal as well. And you just make yourself this pariah out there for what? I think in the long run, having people not being able to respect marriages anymore and respect vows is a sad thing, because if Tony just got divorced and did the same thing, I actually don't think he would have gotten in trouble. Or I guess if she got divorced and did this, he would not have gotten in trouble. The issue is from him, Shamor Moore, Gerson Rosas, if you don't remember, who had a consensual relationship with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they had to get his ass up out of there. Like, on and on and on. And it's like people cannot control themselves. And it doesn't matter their success, who they're married to, they will choose the horny. And it'll just come down to that being the major issue, especially now when the MLB is again looking like it's going to be on a strike. And we've already talked about the strike, and when Lane comes on again, we'll talk to him more about the strike in general. But I want this pod, or at least this episode, to talk more about like kind of the world at large. And I touched on it a little bit on last episode's podcast where we talked about how the NBA All-Star Game has kind of lost its verb. And I think it's the fact that we are, as a country, facing a crisis that we haven't seen before, in the sense that no one can afford anything. Like, literally, no one can afford anything. Everything is going up in every single way, as far as flights, as far as housing, groceries, cars, things that you need to kind of, enjoy a full life. And people aren't getting paid anything. In fact, the job market is getting worse and worse from any number you can look at. But, Pam Bondi said the Dow was 500,000. So, your 401k is going to be great when you can't eat and you're dead and can't use them at any point in your life. But you have two interesting strikes, one that's essentially going to happen and one that seems like it's going to take place in the WNBA and the MLB. And what ends up happening is that you have just a little bit of like a pulling of a thread on these things, right? Where, yeah, the people in the league are good. The networks or streaming services are paying tons and tons of money to broadcast these games. But I mean, to watch any package of any type of sport is going to cost you so much money if you want to actually watch your favorite sports leagues. There was a New York Times article that came out, I believe it was around middle of last year, 2025, where it said if you want to watch the four major sports and you want to watch every single sport of the four major sports, you need to spend over $5,000 just a year to watch all the sports. No family has that kind of money to give out to watch sports. Whether it's with Amazon, you need Roku, Peacock, you're gonna need a regular cable service, Netflix. Either your cable service has Turner Sports on it, or you have HBO Max that has Turner on it. It's just costing way too much. And what you're seeing is that it is slowly but surely diluting the product, because what ends up happening is that big companies, big corporations, they buy up all the tickets and they either go and they're doing something in the game or they don't show up. Someone made a point, if you listen to New York radio, of them talking of like they went to a game, Knicks game, and there was a woman in the front. I think they were in like the 200 section, and she was just working the whole time. She was just on her computer. There was a game happening in front of her, and she was working the whole time. And the reason why is because she probably doesn't give a fuck about what's happening in the game. She's probably just there for her job. And it's pricing out the fans who really care, who this stuff means a lot to them. And you're essentially making it so that they don't need to get in. And I'm not exactly sure what exactly the fix is for this. I don't know exactly what needs to transpire, but it's getting worse. And the fact that, the WNBA needs to even have something like, you're talking about the housing for them being a big part of it. I get that, because it's hard to live anywhere, especially when most of the players make less than, an average, what an average American does who lives in New York or lives in California, lives in a big city. And we are just heading down a path of no return, because this will make the sports worse. It just will. The energy that you see from fans at games, the energy you hear from TVs and things like that, when you make it so that you can only get in if you make 200,000 or more, it just makes the experience way worse. And I'm not exactly sure what exactly is going to be the breaking point of this, right? But I do know is that we are getting very, very close to it, because there's no exact way for anybody to be able to do any of this stuff and pay to live. As much as I love doing this with you guys, as much as I love talking about sports, I understand that sports for a lot of people are just entertainment. They throw it on, they don't really care who wins or loses. But for me, it speaks to a larger degree of what society is. And when you have all-star games that the get-in price is $700, when you have no one showing up to your arena games and things are being blacked out, but the arena isn't full because no one can afford to go to the games when it comes to football season. When going to do, imagine a family going to try and watch a basketball game and spending maybe $1,000 to $2,000 to see their favorite player, and their favorite player sits out because of load management or something like that. You are stressing your consumer to the point where they are going to become disinterested. They're not going to want to keep going to these things. And sadly, I like to come up with solutions for these things, but unless we make a major shift in how we are operating in this country and giving people more money, there's no exact way for this to get solved. And I think a lot of people are going to suffer for this. You know, the World Cup is coming to this country, and for the first time we're getting the World Cup and the Olympics in within a 2-year span. There is going to be a significant amount of people who will not be here the next time this country gets either of those events. Okay? These are literally once in a lifetime events that should be celebrated. I'm not saying that everyone should be able to afford to go to the finals. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that everyone should be afforded the right to go to sit at the very front to watch. But the fact that there is a very great chance that people who probably love soccer and people in different parts of this country who are from these other countries who might want to see their country of origin play is sad and unacceptable. And I don't think that's how a country should actually be run. And it is a loud speaking flair of how the rest of this country is. I mean, what's bad when people are starting to put food on layaway. There was already a report, I believe, in the New York Times saying that millions of Americans, to cover the cost of things, are donating plasma. Plasma. That's something you did in college. And that was like, I think I've never donated plasma, but that was definitely something talked about. And at least back when that was talked about with me, I think you got about $100. $100, you're like, oh, $100, that's beer for the weekend, and then that's how you would get by. Again, thankfully I never had to do that, but the fact that people are just like, that's how they are getting by and eating. Once again, these recession indicators are just happening, and people are just slowly seeing that just because the stock markets are going a certain way, that doesn't mean that people are able to survive like this. And until this thing gets solved, we are going to be in a really, really tough time to be able to get people to get through these moments. And I think having sports showcase just how bad the money crisis is very informative, because the sports are a luxury. Getting groceries is not. And until that gets solved, we are going to be in a very, 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 very bad place. But all right. That's all the time we guys had for you guys today. Thank you guys for listening to the Men Who Cry podcast. Just a very short pod for you guys on what we had for today. Again, like I said, thank you guys again for listening. Please like, subscribe, review, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. And we'll be back talking all this good stuff with you guys next week. All right, everyone. Peace out.